Have you ever been in a crowd that is just chanting death, 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 kill, 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 murder? And like, you kind of want to get into it? I definitely have. I've felt that. And today we're going to be talking about how that exact mentality led to the deaths of 30,000 people in the ancient Eastern Roman Empire in Constantinople. Welcome back to Historical Quarrel, guys. Today we'll be going over the NIKA riots and talking about the blues and the greens. Also about Emperor Justinian I and his wife Theodora. And a few of the causes that led up to it. And just how batshit crazy it became. This is essentially like if NASCAR teams ended up getting super political and, you know, like, those teams just decided to, like, divide themselves into colors, you know, like, and they also, like, decided to support certain political groups. So let's say, like, A team was blue, and they supported the Democrats, and then, you know, B team was red, and they were the Republicans. This would never happen in NASCAR. Obviously, would all be Republican. But, they, imagine them doing that, and then stirring up the crowd to try and go kill the current president. Not saying that it's happening, FBI agent listening, but that's essentially what happened back in 532 AD. Anyways, after today's show, I'll be going over a couple of announcements that I have for the channel because I'm excited to try and start upgrading it. I've looked into getting a few different sponsors. I guess you can do that even with like 2 views. Just to see like what it's like and kind of get some practice at it. Please let me know what I can do better and how I can improve. I obviously need to get better equipment and everything, but that's just not happening until much later. So, but yeah, no, let's get into it, guys. I'm excited for today. So to start us off today, we're going to be going over the life of a man by the name of Justinian I. He was also known as Justinian the Great. He was Eastern Roman Emperor from 527 AD to 565. His reign is marked by the ambitious but only partially realized Renovatio Imperii, or restoration of the empire. He essentially did try to reunite the Roman Empire and was trying to, you know, like get it back to its former glory. He's noted by most historians as the last Roman emperor, the last true Roman, as he was the last Roman emperor to speak Latin fluently, or just naturally. He was born in Tarisium, Dardania, around 482 AD, native speaker of Latin. He came from a peasant family believed to have been of Euro-Roman or Thraco-Roman origin. The cognomen Lustinianus, which he took later, is indicative of adoption by his uncle Justin. During his reign, he founded Justinia Prima, not far from his birthplace. His mother was Vigilantia, the sister of Justin. Justin, who was commander of one of the imperial guard units, the Excubitors, before he became emperor, adopted Justinian, brought him to Constantinople, and ensured the boy's education. As a result, Justinian was well educated in jurisprudence, theology, and the Roman history. The guy was pretty smart, in all honesty. Like, he was... many described him as a very good ruler. There's a couple guys who were, like, trying to slander him later in his life because they didn't like him. Probably just because, like, he was a commoner and, you know, all that bullshit. Anyways, he served as a candidatus, one of 40 men selected from the Scholae Palantinae to serve as the emperor's personal bodyguard. The chronicler, John Malalas, who lived during the reign of Justinian, describes his appearance as short, fair-skinned, curly-haired, round-faced, and handsome. Another contemporary historian, Procopius, compares Justinian's appearance to that of the tyrannical emperor Domitian, although it's just probably slander. More than likely, guy did not make nobles and their scholars or writers happy because he liked commoners. When Emperor Anastasius died in 518, Justin was proclaimed the new emperor, so Justinian's uncle / adoptive father. During Justin's reign, 518 to 527, Justinian was the emperor's close confidant. Justinian showed a lot of ambition, and it has been thought that he was functioning as virtual regent long before Justin made him associate emperor on the 1st of April, 527. So a lot of people have assumed that he was essentially ruling from the shadows, while Justin was just kind of, nearing death. There's no conclusive evidence of that, however. As Justin became senile near the end of his reign, which I have to imagine must have been super fun. I like it when emperors just kind of go super senile, because usually it ends with them, like, trying to have sex with an animal, as I've noted before. I'm guessing, considering it was Constantinople, probably an ox. He was probably just trying to have an ox birth him an heir. Anyways, following the general Vitalian's assassination, presumed to be orchestrated by Justinian or Justin, Justinian was appointed consul in 521 and later commander of the army of the East. Upon Justin's death on the 1st of August, 527, Justinian became sole sovereign. As ruler, Justinian showed great energy. He was known as the emperor who never sleeps for his work habits. Nevertheless, he seems to have been amiable and easy to approach. Around 525, he married his mistress, Theodora, in Constantinople. She was by profession an actress and some 20 years his junior. Emperors always got to go for them young girls, just like freaking Leonardo DiCaprio. Anyways, she was in earlier times. Justinian could not have married her, owing to her class, but his uncle Emperor Justin I had passed a law lifting those restrictions on marriages with ex-actresses. So it sounds like his uncle Justin just threw him aside and was like, "Yo, I get it, bro. Here, specifically for ex-actresses," and she's now an ex-actress. You go get your dick wet. You go get it. And it sounds like they had a really good relationship together, overall. Theodora would become very influential in the politics of the empire. Other talented individuals included Tribonian, his legal advisor, Peter the Patrician, the diplomat and longtime head of the palace bureaucracy, Justinian's finance ministers, John the Cappadocian and Peter Barsimes, who managed to collect taxes more efficiently than any before, thereby funding Justinian's wars, and finally his prodigiously talented generals Belisarius and Narses. And those guys did kick ass. They won a ton of battles, were able to spare a lot of lives essentially by using tactics as opposed to just brutal warfare. But yeah, this guy was pretty freaking awesome. So anyways, during his time, he ended up supporting the Blues quite a bit. And we can get into the riots now. And then once we're into the riots, I'll talk more about Theodora, because Theodora is a badass. Anyways, the ancient Roman and Byzantine empires had well-developed associations known as demes, which supported the different factions or teams to which competitors in certain sporting events belonged, especially in chariot racing. Chariot racing is essentially what chariot racing is to the ancient Roman and Byzantine empires is what football is to modern-day America. They were initially 4 major factions in chariot racing, differentiated by the color of the uniform in which they competed. The colors were also worn by their supporters. These were blues, Veneti, the greens, Prasini, the reds, Russati, and the whites, Albati. Although by the 6th century, the only teams with any influence were the blues and greens. Emperor Justinian I was a supporter of the blues. The demes had become a focus for various social and political issues for which the general Byzantine population lacked other forms of outlet. So they essentially didn't have ways to, they didn't have Twitter back then. So the way for that population to kind of get their ideas out or to vent frustrations about what's going on, or how their money is being spent, or taxes happening, was for them to go to chariot games and chant something out, and to try and get their team that they supported to also agree with them and chant it out during the race. Again, it'd be much like if let's say, Washington was super pissed with fucking California for not wanting to pay as much for the water that they donate to them every year. And so during a 49ers and a Seahawks game, the Seahawks fans would chant, "Pay for water, pay for water." And like the football team would be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we get that. Hey, pay for water, assholes." To the other side, to try and get them to, change their political views or to do something different, or to any lawmakers in the audience. Yeah, that'd be so wild if we did that nowadays. I can only imagine how that shit would go down. I mean, like we have some political stuff, like Black Lives Matter, but for the most part, most of us tend to agree on those issues that like they need a voice, they need support, and we've only had like a few riots break out. I wouldn't say because of a sporting event, but like if you could only do it at sporting events, I am positive thousands would be killed every other year from riots. Luckily, we have Twitter and we have other ways to protest now in America. You can't because back then you couldn't just go to the, chant outside the palace and be like, "We want this," otherwise you'd be killed. But in the games, you could kind of just chant something, and the emperors couldn't really do jack shit because they were like, "Well, yeah, F it, it's just a game." And then sometimes it was good for them to be heard, which makes us all the sadder because the general population is essentially just being manipulated by the aristocrats that are supporting these different factions back then, because they want Justinian removed. Justinian actually really cared a lot about the common people and about commoners and tried to make life better for them. He was also really focused on just taking over and making Rome whole again. But that it was essentially impossible at that point. He did stop the Ostrogoths, which is really impressive. He got Rome, like Italy, back to being in the East Roman Empire, which is super impressive. But yeah, no. So as we continue on, they combine these essentially groups. They would combine aspects of street gangs and political parties, taking positions on current issues, including theological problems. So they're kind of like an all-in-one like outlet for these people. Like you'd have your street gangs, so like Crips and Bloods essentially would be fighting, but like for these sports teams, be like, "No man, fuck your team. What, you coming over to the blue side right now? I'm gonna fuck you up." Like, at the same time, you'd have like priests essentially sporting like blue or green robes and be like, "Nah, dude, this is how the gods would think about that," and the blues would be like, "Nah, man, this is how the gods would want to think about that, dude." Like, just freaking wild. Like how much. I mean, it's no wonder that this became like such a huge problem for the riot. Like, it essentially took all the problems that this country had been having, or this city in particular had been having with their government and all the other social issues, and wrapped into just one event. So it just became this like massive hot bubble of like drama and problems, and all of it was done for chariot racing. Again, I would love it if that's what we did for like NASCAR, or like you just have like a priest standing in the middle of the track being like, "This is how God thinks, man." Like, and then for like the other team, a different priest being like, "No, dude, this is how God thinks." Oh, that'd be so fun to watch, and then they get ran over or something. Like, that'd be crazy, man. That'd be freaking wild. Or again, like with football or soccer, we already kind of do have that. Towards the end here, I'll start like comparing different sports riots to this, because this is the most destructive one in history, bar none. There's a couple others that were, pretty bad, but nowhere near as bad. So anyways, 531, some members of Blues and Greens were arrested for murder in connection with deaths during rioting after a chariot race. The riots were, very common occurrence, just nothing quite as bad as this, but again, pretty common just because of the political, theological, and social nature of everything that the chariot races allowed. They didn't have other outlets for anything, so chariot races were the only place for that outlet, which is definitely what led to this riot. Anyways, the murderers were set to be executed. Let's see. And most of them were. However, on January 10th, 532, 2 of them, a blue and a green, escaped and sought sanctuary in a church surrounded by an angry mob. Justinian was super nervous about it. He was in the middle of negotiating a peace treaty with the Persians in the east, and it was at the end of the Iberian War, and now he's dealing with all this BS in his city. So he declared that the chariot race would be held on January 13th and commuted sentences of imprisonment. The Blues and Greens responded by demanding that the two men be pardoned entirely. So they wanted their teammates, out of prison. Justinian and 2 of his leading officials, John the Cappadocian and Tribonian, were extremely unpopular because of the high taxes they levied. Most of those taxes were to fund the wars that he was fighting, because he wanted to rebuild Rome. He also had a lot of building projects he did. He did the Hagia Sophia, beautiful, beautiful church. The corruption of the latter two, and John's cruelty against debtors, John and Justinian had also reduced spending on the civil service and combated the corruption of the civil service. The many nobles who had lost their power and fortune when removed from the smaller, less corrupt civil service joined the ranks of the Greens. Justinian was also reducing the power of both teams. The Greens saw this as imperial oppression akin to the reforms in the civil service, which again, it's just, you lost your fortune. He essentially took money from the rich people and was like, yeah, fuck you guys, I don't care. And they were obviously not happy about that. But he was, as he was reducing both their powers, the Greens saw that as oppression. The Blues just felt betrayed. The Roman legal code had a popular image as distinguishing the civilized Romans, from barbarians. The law code was also religiously important, as the Romans were believed to be chosen by God. Because, every race and every country that, is the shit or thinks of themselves highly is obviously chosen by a deity. Everywhere in history, that's one of the main things that we'll see. It being a symbol of justice, as such, if an emperor successfully made significant legal reforms, it would lend him legitimacy. But if this process bogged down, it showed divine anger. So essentially, he's saying, like, if the emperor successfully was able to make significant legal reforms, it showed that he was a legit emperor, and that he was divine. However, if it was bogged down, then it showed that it wasn't, which is super dumb. It just shows the corruption of men usually when it gets bogged down. What had taken 9 years for the Theodosian Code took Justinian 13 months, which is pretty good, all things considered. Just before the Nika riots of January 532, however, the pace of reforms had slowed. At the same time, Justinian was fighting an unsuccessful war against the Persians, while Byzantine victories at Dara, spring of 530, and Satala, summer of 530, had briefly fostered his legitimacy. The defeat at Kalinicum, 531, and negative strategic situation damaged the emperor's reputation at the time, so he was just not quite as popular as he was when these riots take place. The legal reforms were unpopular with the aristocracy from the start, as they made it impossible to use obscure laws and jurisprudence to avoid unfavorable verdicts. Further, both Justinian and his wife, Theodora, were of low birth. Again, there's the aristocracy being like, you shouldn't be emperor, I should be emperor. My daddy was cooler than your daddy. Like, so dumb. So dumb. Byzantine society was not as class-driven as the feudal-dominated society of the West. The Greens were a monophysite group and represented the interest of the moneyed and moneyed non-landowners, Justinian being neither of those. Thus, when Justinian refused to pardon the 2 arrested rioters, there was already resentment towards him among both the general populace and the aristocracy. So he pissed off 2 people all at once by doing that. On January 13th, 532 AD, an angry crowd arrived at the Hippodrome for the races. The Hippodrome was next to the palace complex, so Justinian could preside over the races from the safety of his box in the palace. From the start, the crowd hurled insults at Justinian. I'd like to imagine they called him tiny dickus, or no peniasitis. I don't know, just something dumb. They're just making fun of him, or calling him like a trash or common, just something stupid. By the end of the day, at race 22, the partisan chants had changed from blue or green to a unified NIKA, meaning win, victory, or conquer. Fuck, man, like, I heard enough people saying, conquer, conquer, conquer. Dude, like, I'd feel it. I mean, it's like that Marine mentality when it's like, you go through like a couple of like the war chants and you just like, what makes the grass grow? My name is blood! It's like, yeah, I want to kill! I want to go to war! Like, man, that would get me pumped! Conquer! So yeah, as they're chanting conquer, obviously enough people start joining in that it causes a whole bunch of problems, and the crowds broke out and began to assault the palace. Again, that mob mentality is strong. You see enough of your same people going to do it, you will join them, and you will fight whatever battle is happening for the most part. It's super easy as long as you agree with what they're fighting for to get involved in that. Anyways, for the next 5 days, the palace was under siege. They put this palace under siege for 5 days, which is wild to me. However, most of the Imperial army was being used to, they were still traveling back from Persia, because they were still negotiating peace, obviously, but they were starting to retreat anyways, which, again, was another part of this. Fire started during the tumultuous time, which destroyed much of the city, including the city's foremost church, the Hagia Sophia, which Justinian would later rebuild. So, that's why we still have it. Some of the senators saw this as an opportunity to overthrow Justinian. Yeah, obviously. I mean, like, you see an opening, you take it. And they took it. Oh, man, did they take it. As they were opposed to the new taxes and his lack of support from the nobility. Again, Justinian it was honestly pretty fair, like, in my opinion. Looking over a lot of the stuff that he did, super fair guy. There's a lot of unfair things that he did, and honestly, like, his tax collector, maybe not the nicest, but pretty fair overall, for all things considered back then. And as there was that, the rioters, now armed and probably controlled by their allies in the Senate, also demanded that Justinian dismiss the prefect John, the Cappadocian, and the quaestor Tribunonian, and they then declared a new emperor, Hippotius, a nephew of the former emperor Anastasius I. Justinian considered fleeing, but his wife Theodora, and this is badass as fuck, like, she was like, they said to have dissuaded him by saying, those who have worn the crown should never survive its loss. Never will I see the day when I am not saluted as empress. Damn! God damn! Like, I want any of you to picture yourselves in that same situation where you have the opportunity to flee, like, and you can live another day, and instead you choose to be that badass. 9 out of 10 of you, positive, would not do that. She was like, you know what? Y'all can be bitches and pussies and run off if you want. I'm gonna stay right here, because I'm a boss-ass bitch. And she essentially demasculated, and it is quoted that she demasculated him by saying, yeah, you better stay here, you little bitch. She's also credited with adding, those who are born into the light of day must sooner or later die. Basically, like, no matter what, you're gonna die. You might as well just die now. Like, again, man, so cool. And how could an emperor ever allow himself to be a fugitive? Again, calling her husband out, calling him a little bitch. Like, how could you, as an emperor, let yourself be a fugitive from your own people? You little bitch boy. Although an escape route across the sea lay open for the emperor, Theodora insisted that she would stay in the city, quoting an agent saying, royalty is a fine burial shroud, or perhaps the color purple makes a fine winding sheet. which is it's like a death shawl. I don't know. Anyways, let's get into Theodora's life now, as this lady, super cool. Theodora was of Greek descent. There are several indications of her possible birthplace. According to Michael the Syrian, her birthplace was in Marburg, Syria. Nicephorus Callistius Xanthopoulos, I cannot pronounce that name, names Theodora a native of Cyprus. While the Patria, attributed to George Godonius, claims Theodora from Paphlagonia. She was born in AD 500. Her father, Acacius, was a bear trainer, so that's probably where she gets the badass from, of the Hippodrome's Green Faction in Constantinople. Her mother, whose name is not recorded, was a dancer and an actress, which is how she gets into acting. Her parents had 2 more daughters, the eldest named Comito and the youngest named Anastasia. After her father's death, when Theodora was 4, her mother brought her children wearing garlands into the Hippodrome and presented them as suppliants to the Blue Faction. From then on, Theodora would be a supporter of the Blues. According to Procopius' Secret History, Theodora followed her sister Comito's example from an early age and worked in a Constantinople brothel serving low and high status customers. Later, she performed on stage in his famous account of Theodora itself, based on Secret History. Again, Secret History, by the way, is a book that seems to just be a lot of slander towards Justinian. Edward Gibbon wrote, her venal charms were abandoned to a promiscuous crowd of citizens and strangers of every rank and of every position. The fortunate lover who had been promised a night of enjoyment was often driven from her by a stronger or more wealthy favorite. And when she passed through the streets, her presence was avoided by all who wished to escape either the scandal or the temptation. Bro, she was dancing like a stripper. Damn! I mean, she was hot as shit, and she fucking knew it, so she charged whatever the hell she wanted. And if you didn't pay up enough, you were gonna get pushed aside. Like, you weren't gonna get any. God damn, she's so cool. And she became empress. Damn! Like, yeah, just like, praise Theodora, man. Fucking cool lady. In Procopius' account, made a name for herself. Theodora, in that account, made a name for herself with her salacious portrayal of Leda and the Swan, which is the story of Zeus being a swan, boning some Greek princess, I think. And so she essentially did a portrayal of that. So, man, bestiality. Every single time we go into history, man, there's always a little bit of bestiality employed. Goddamn Greeks. They love that shit. Employment as an actress at the time would include both the indecent exhibitions on stage and providing sexual services off stage. So she was like a stripper, on stage, and then she was a prostitute off stage, which not as common nowadays. I don't know. I've never been to a strip club, so I would not know. Anyways, later Theodora traveled to North Africa as the concubine of a Syrian official named Hysibulus. When he went to the Libyan Pentapolis as governor, abandoned and maltreated by Hysibulus, on her way back to the capital of the Byzantine Empire, she settled for a while in Alexandria, Egypt. She is speculated by some to have met Patriarch Timothy III in Alexandria, who was a Miaphysite, and it may be at that time that she converted to the Miaphysite Christianity. From Alexandria, she went to Antioch, where she met a Blue Faction's dancer, Macedonia, who was perhaps an informer of Justinian. When Justinian sought to marry Theodora, he was prevented by a Roman law from Constantine's time that barred anyone of senatorial rank from marrying actresses. In 524, Byzantine Emperor Justin passed a new law decreeing that reformed actresses could thereafter legally marry outside their rank if approved by the emperor.
The same law stated that daughters of these actresses would also be free to marry a man of any rank, which would have allowed Theodora's illegitimate daughter, whose name has been lost, to marry one of the relatives of previous Emperor Anastasius. Soon after Justin's laws passed, Justinian married Theodora. Okay, so, super cool backstory. Again, Justin, freaking bro Justin, Emperor, hooking a brother up there, being like, you know, man, I get it, you like this girl, well, let's get you going, alright? Like, freaking crazy. Anyways, after she gets done, you know, demasculating her man during these riots, Justinian created a plan that involved Narcissus, a popular eunuch, and the generals Belisarius and Mundus carrying a bag of gold given to him by Justinian. The slightly built eunuch, so this guy was a little jacked, entered the hippodrome alone and unarmed. Narcissus went directly to the blues section, where he approached the important blues, and reminded them that Justinian supported them over the greens. So he was like, hey guys, just so you know, Justinian likes you guys over the greens. And then, by the way, Hippotus, whatever the fuck his name is, Hippatius, that guy is a green. And I know you guys fucking hate each other. I've seen the fucking West Side Story snap fights that you guys have been having. I know you don't want that shit. So how about this? You guys go ahead, take this bag of gold, and quietly leave. And that's exactly what they did. He got all the blues, like most of the blues, to fucking leave, and then he sends in his army, and he slaughters all of the rioters, and he quells it by just doing that. I am positive Justinian didn't create that plan. I'm positive, just to save face, that's what they wrote. Theodora definitely came up with that shit. Like, she is a smart, savvy lady. And while I'm sure Justinian came up with some parts of it, I'm pretty sure she had the main idea. Overall, about 30,000 people were reportedly killed. 30,000 people! Dude, that's an entire city. Like, maybe not a large city, but like a pretty good sized city. Maybe not good size, but like mid-sized city. Just like a town. Imagine an entire town just fucking disappearing because of a sports riot. That's crazy, man. Anyways, Justinian had Hippolytus, the would-be emperor, executed and exiled the senators who had supported the riot. So he got rid of all those dissenters. And then he rebuilt Constantinople and Hagia Sophia and was free to establish his rule and continue on. He would later be sainted. Him and Theodore both would be sainted by the Orthodox Christian Church. And that brings us to the end of this riot. Let's go ahead and take a comparison real quick of some other famous sports riots that have happened. So we'll start with the bike fight, Las Vegas, 1997. This is where Mike Tyson bit off a bit of Evander Holyfield's ear. There was a little mini riot. Witness fighting caused a riot. More than 200 police officers and hotel security guards worked together to clear the jammed hotel lobby as people ran through the hallways. And then restaurants had to shut their doors to keep people out. So, nobody died. Not bad. Then the 10-cent beer night, 1974, pretty bad. Cleveland Indians held a promotion event for the game against the Texas Rangers at Cleveland Stadium in 1974. The idea was to offer fans to buy unlimited beers for 10 cents during the game. Predictably, this led to the fans becoming heavily intoxicated and unruly. Eventually, the crowd became uncontrollable and started throwing objects into the field because they were drunk. So the only option left was to forfeit. Therefore, the Indians, who had scheduled 3 or more of these beer nights, changed it to 4 beers per person for the rest of the promotions. Oh man, 10 cents a beer, that'd be crazy. That'd be wild. Be super cheap for drinkers out there. Gosh dang. The Sydney Sports Riot, 1879. The English toured Australia for their cricket match back in 1879. Moreover, it was the second match between the English 11th, led by Lord Harris, and then New South Wales, led by Dave Gregory. New South Wales was behind by 90 runs. The English chosen umpire, George Cortland gave a run out to the New South Wales star, Billy Murdoch. Thus, the Australian crowd was less than pleased by the decision. As a result, the mass of around 2,000 people burst into the pitch and caused the riot. Again, Lord Harris was just struck with a stick. English batsman Ian Hornby was stripped of his shirt. Other Englishmen wielded cricket stumps as weapons while defending Coulthard. Situation was worsening, so the match continued the next day. So the riot quelled, and then the match just happened the next day. So not too bad. We had the Denver Super Bowl celebration, sports riot of 1998. So the riot caused about $160,000 in damage. There's no death recorded in the riot. Butembo witchcraft sports riot. Just dozens of teenagers staging a protest in Butembo streets. South Africa rugby union tour of Australia 1971. That ended up having about 5,000 protesters. Protests culminated in the declaration of state of emergency in Queensland. The campaign was proof that strikes and broad-based movements are the keys to changing public opinion and conquering racism. That's a good one. That's a good riot. Detroit Tigers World Series sports riot 1984. Detroit Tigers won the World Series over the San Diego Padres. Afterward, the riots erupted, left one person dead and 80 other people injured. So here we start getting into the deaths. So, pretty bad. Oppenheimer Stadium, sports riot 1991. The Stampede, many fans were trampled or crushed to death against riot control fences. About 42 people died. There's about 30,000 people in the stadium. And when, there was allegedly some knife-wielding Pirates fans attacked Chiefs fans, when that happened, it caused a stampede. And that's what caused 42 people to lose their lives during that riot. Montreal Stanley Cups riot 1993. Occurred in the Stanley Cup Finals between Los Angeles Kings and the Montreal Canadiens. Canadiens won the finals, triggered the Kings fans to come down to the streets, and the riots began by destroying properties while the Canadiens were celebrating inside the Montreal Forum. $2.5 million worth of damage. 47 police cars were damaged. A ton of rioters were arrested. At the peak point of the riot, 980 officers were dispatched and made 115 arrests. Gosh dang! There were 168 people injured. 49 of those were police officers. Dang, dude! That's wild! The Port Said Stadium riot 2012. Oh, this is recent. So... On 1st February 2012, Egyptian Premier League football match took place in Port Said Stadium. That day, the two Egyptian football clubs, Al Masri and Al Ali, played against each other, where Al Masri became victorious. Moreover, Al Masri fans invaded the pitch to celebrate the victory. They then began attacking Al Ali fans with swords, stones, and knives. Dang, dude! That's crazy. They were so happy that they were like, yeah, man, just to shit on you, we're going to kill you now. What? What the hell, dude? That's crazy. The death count of this insane riot is 74. Also, the injured count was over 500. Yeah, they had freaking swords, stones, and knives, man. They had swords. Dude, could you imagine, your team just lost and you're, super sad, and then, the team was invading the field, and they're celebrating and chanting, and they're like, yeah, screw you guys, and you're just like, yeah, screw you, and you flip them off, and all of a sudden people just draw swords. God damn, dude! Oh, that's crazy. That might be something I have to Oh man, that was in 2012 too. Gosh dang. That's wild. Okay. And then the closest riot to being anywhere near as close as bad as the NIKA riots is the Lima football sports riot of 1964. Essentially, there was a bad call between Peru and Argentina for their football tournament, and it was for the Olympics football tournament too, so big deal. Peru ended up getting denied an equalizing goal by the referee. Therefore, the Peru's fans, invaded the pitch. Police decided to fire tear gas to prevent invasion of fans. However, that was a really bad decision by them. This would end up causing a stampede to try toward the gate as it was hard to breathe due to the tear gas. As a result, a lot of people ended up dying due to hemorrhaging or asphyxia, so they would suffocate to death. It caused about 328 deaths and over 500 people injured. It was, very sad event for Peru. But yeah, guys, that's this is where we end our tale today. Here, I'm going to let me get to my announcements. So to start off, I'm going to announce that this is going to be a weekly podcast for the foreseeable future. I did find out that I can start getting paid on it, I guess. It's like per 1,000 views though, so highly doubt I'll get paid. But I was told to send some like practice ads in, so I'm gonna, practice recording myself and pitching an ad for a product, being like, "Hey, do you want to try out this Casper mattress? Have you ever wanted to sit on the silky sheets of angels? Well, go ahead and buy yourself a Casper mattress." My wife and I do have a Casper mattress. Not sponsored, by the way. Love it. Fantastic. Love sleeping on it. Feels great. I know it's a little pricey. Definitely worth it, though. So good. Ooh! Sleep like a baby. Other than that, though, I do want to get better at this. I'm enjoying researching and doing all this. I know a way to get better is definitely just focusing on, one, my pitch of voice and how excited I sound for certain bits. Honestly, sometimes I have a hard time feeling like I'm like doing funny bits. I'm trying to write more material for future things. However, like next week we're going to be doing the pig war, so that's going to be pretty fun. As that one was just caused over, I haven't read into it yet, but I'm pretty sure America slaughtered a pig, so Canada was like, okay, wartime. Or the other way around. And yeah, and that almost essentially caused like another invasion of America and the big ordeal. But I think I just need to dedicate a little more time to it. Difficult, obviously, with family and work and everything. If you guys have like ideas though, for other short things I can do, if you are enjoying this, let me know. I'd love to, get to know people that are listening to this more and listen to you guys' takes and ideas. I know I swear a lot, and that just kind of happens. It's just like how I talk naturally, honestly, like when I'm unencumbered by a lot of things, so deal with it. That's the best I can say. I think it's more fun when I hear a shit or a fuck while I'm learning about history, to be very honest. And like when people explain things to me like that, I feel better about it. So, and I feel like I take more out of it. But yeah, I'm having a great time doing this, honestly. I don't know who all is going to eventually listen to this, who all is even liking this right now. Maybe no one hears this. But if you're one of the few, feel free to email me or to message me. My socials are, or you can just email at historicalquarrels@gmail.com. It's just spelled the way that you'd spell historical quarrels in English. If you don't know how to do that, just Google it. It'll autocorrect for you, then just copy paste, put that into Gmail, send me whatever. Preferably not death threats. Wouldn't like those. Don't think that would go over too well. But if you hate it that much, I understand. No, I'll take it into careful consideration with how I approach my next couple of episodes. But yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, just have a good one and keep learning about fights and stuff. Oh, and then honestly, if you guys have like your own petty quarrels or topics that you want me to do, send it to me. I'll research it and then I'll try and write an episode for it. So, thank you guys. Have a good one and bye-bye.